Okay. So the first question is really about, could you say a little bit about how you are at the moment as chair? And then I've asked you to invite a couple of team members to also just say, and they've only got like a minute really each, just a little bit of how it is for them at the moment. I know some of those people are furloughed, some still working, but people are interested to hear on a personal level, how you're doing.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, so what we're going to do is have, I'll say something about me, and then we'll have video Carla talking for someone who's still working in the team. Ashra Shraddha is going to talk for somebody who is furloughed from the team. And Dharma Karunya is going to say a little bit about how it is being in the trustees at this difficult time. And we've got 1 minute each, folks. So let's give it a go. But Surika will keep us in line, I'm sure. How is it for me? Well, it's actually incredibly stimulating and sometimes exciting, but it's also actually exhausting. I have to say, it's very, very tiring. And it's very interesting. Karen Atara mentioned this to me. Even the chair of Unilever, one of the world's largest companies, has said there is no strategy now at all. It's all out of the window. So it's an interesting point, isn't it, to think what one of the chairs of the biggest countries in the companies in the world is tackling at the moment. Largely I'm fine. Largely I'm fine, but every now and then I get thoroughly stressed out and get a horrible headache. But it's good. It's good. It's trying to stay open to the heart, but also deal with a lot of pragmatic situations at the same time, which is not easy, as you can imagine. Okay, that's me. Vidya Parla, could we ask you to say a little bit about what it's like working in the team?
Yeah, I can do. Nice to see everybody. Yeah, many things I could say, but just briefly, it's been challenging, particularly in the first few weeks of when we were getting things online. But like you said, Silabodhi, I've also found it pretty enjoyable and stimulating. And I've sort of enjoyed the new way of working, really. And I've enjoyed working with, the people that are still working proper, as it were. I think we've worked well together. And I think one of the interesting things is that it's forced us to take more of our classes and courses online. And I think that will serve us well when we're back in the centre. We wouldn't have done that otherwise. And it's no replacement for things in person, as it were, but I think that's been good. And I have to say, although it has been challenging, and I've also found it stimulating and interesting. And I think personally, I feel like and I'm sure the other people that are still working would agree with this, that we're all still pretty inspired by the idea of, bringing the Dharma to people, really, in whatever form we can do that. And I'm certainly still inspired to carry on doing that as best we can. And yeah, we'll just continue to do that, whether that's in person or online. So yeah, it's been a few ups and downs, but there's been many positive things that have happened as well. So I'm doing all right, basically. I've got less hair.
Great,
you can't have everything, can you?
That's great, thank you. Ashra Shraddha, can you say a little bit as a furloughed member of the team?
Yes, thank you, Silabodhi. Yeah, hello everybody, lovely to see you all. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to just share a little bit of how it is to be furloughed. I'm feeling a huge appreciation to the 4 that are still working, because they are working really hard indeed. So I have huge appreciation for that. And it did, when we were deciding on furloughing more members of the team, it just made sense for the finances of the centre to help us. It made sense to take up this offer, this generous offer from the government to furlough people. So there's quite a few of us, 8 of us now, who are furloughed. And we've been following the HMRC guidelines, so Moksha Borden is our expert on that. And So HMRC are keen for, because we're a charity, they're keen for us to look after each other and take care of each other so we can keep connected, which I was completely relieved about that. I was so relieved that I was still able to connect with people. So I have been doing quite a lot of that. So furloughing does feel quite full, because I am able to connect with Sangha members and friends, and I'm still able to do my study group. That was a huge relief. We're doing the Satipatthana Sutra at the moment, which just fits in very nicely because the suggestion is that you do it as a home retreat. So, so that's helping with meditation as well, of course. And the heart cooler still meets. We're still able to meet as the heart cooler, so we do that 3 times a week. So we're still keeping connected. Obviously, I'm still in my chapter. So it has been a bit of an emotional roller coaster. I've had periods of time where I felt really, really well, enjoying going out for walks every day, and just emotionally feeling very well. And there are periods of time, I don't know if you've experienced this in lockdown, but there are periods of time where there's absolutely no motivation to do anything whatsoever. Don't know if you've noticed that. Sarika's telling me to wind up. So yeah, generally the overview is I'm really well. And yeah, I'm aware of everybody and lovely to see you all. Yeah.
Great, thank you, Atrishada. And finally, Dharma Karunya as a representative of the trustees at the moment.
Okay, well, it's lovely to see you all this evening, and thanks so much for showing up, really. Real testament to the strength of our Sangha, I think. So, yeah, a view from the trustees. Clearly, this is a great opportunity as well as a very challenging time for the trustees. Personally, I find it a privilege as well as a significant responsibility to serve on the trustees. And of course, as we've gone into lockdown and this whole situation is rolling out, as trustees, we've been meeting much more frequently, weekly, and at the moment we're meeting fortnightly. I would say that among the trustees, and we're quite a large group with the centre team and the trustees, there's a lot of expertise, a really great skill set, and I think a lot of energy and commitment to support the Buddhist Centre to weather this significant storm. It's a very difficult time for all sorts of organisations, and of course the Buddhist Centre is no exception. So we're all putting our heads together on a very regular basis to ensure that we come through this, and you know, we welcome as much support from the Sangha as you are able to give. And I think the challenge for us is to respond creatively and flexibly and to meet this challenge. And I feel very confident that we'll be able to do this. We've got an excellent chair, we've got a great set of people leading the centre team and the trustees. And so I feel very confident that we can do this. Okay.
Great, thank you, Dharma Karunya. That's great, excellent. Okay, Sarika, over to you again.
Okay, so thanks, that's great to hear from everybody. So Silabodhi, next question really is about the financial situation. So I think Mokshavardhana is going to have some input on this, but basically the question is, people would really appreciate some sort of summary of what our actual financial situation is and what the forecast is looking ahead, including like how we're doing with dana, standing orders, like what is the actual situation we're in financially?
Well, okay, thanks. I'm going to invite Mokshavardhana to give a little presentation now. I haven't seen her, but I'm hoping she's here somewhere. Come in, Mokshavardhana.
I'm here.
Oh, you are, yeah, thank goodness.
Yes. I haven't let you down. Yes. I've got, has Sundeep got the document that I prepared to display?
I haven't, Mokshavardhana.
Ah, right. I could share my screen. Would that be possible?
You can just go down to share screen.
Yep. You've disabled participant screen sharing. So are you able to enable it?
Just in the process of doing that now, Mokshavardhana. There we go. You should see it pop up on your
There
bottom
we
screen.
go. Fantastic.
There we go.
There we go. Bit of a Word document. Right, I'll just start by saying what I'm going to present is incredibly simplified, and I was actually relieved to hear that the chair of Unilever is finding things difficult to forecast, because so am I. It's just really difficult because we don't know what the long-term effects of COVID are going to be, both on our ability to open and also on the economy. So we've had to look at that quite closely. I should say that we've pursued a lot of grant avenues. Silabodhi's put 2 or 3 grant applications into the council, and they've all just fallen flat because we don't qualify, which has been really disappointing. And actually, charities have not been well supported by the government in this situation. What's happened is that they've supported charities that are working directly with people who are affected by COVID, which is obviously fantastic. But there's an awful lot of charities, and particularly faith organisations, that have just not seen a look in terms of any possible grants or loans. So bear that in mind as I talk through this. So I'm really happy to say that regular donations are steady at 4,700 a month. That's actually unusual, and we're really pleased about it. So long may that last. Your regular donations are the things that make us feel really secure. The new initiatives have been fantastic as well. We've just started these new initiatives of tools, the lead meds and talks by Ratnaguna online, and they're bringing in £1,400 a month on average already, right at this early stage. Now, this is actually 600 down per month if we're running those things in the centre, but I think it's really early days, so it's very, very positive. And this is from donations that people give after they've heard Ratnaguna talk or after they've been to a meditation session. And some of the donations have been terrific, really, really quite high. We've also had a fantastic donation of £500 from somebody, for which I'm really grateful. The other thing is that our income from the online courses, which have only just started, are really steady already. They're looking like they're going to be £1,800 a month, and that is fantastic news. Can't tell you how good a news that is. So the new initiatives and the regular donations that are coming through standing orders or Virgin Money giving are really helping. We are making savings. We've looked everywhere for savings, and the big one has been on payroll. The furloughing scheme saved us £6,000 a month, and that will carry on till August. The savings will then decrease quite rapidly until we stop getting any furlough savings come December. But while they're in place, they're great. I should also like to say that we are paying full salaries to everybody. So although the government are paying 80% of people's salary, we're topping it up to the full 100%. So no members of the team have suffered with their income dropping during this period. Silabodhi made a phone call to Triodos Bank, who we have mortgages with on the 2 communities in Prestwich. And we're now saving £1,700 a month until April next year because they're accepting minimum payments off us on those mortgages. And that's making a massive difference. And while the building's closed, we're now looking at making a saving of around £600 a month. That's going to vary. It'll change when winter comes and we have to heat the building more. All of these figures are assuming that this situation goes on forever because we don't know how the situation is going to change. So obviously it's just a period of time. And unfortunately, we're making some losses. Bookshop's not open. Earth Cafe is closed. We're not getting any. We're getting reduced business rents from Breathworks and from Bodywise because they're not able to use the building, but they're still continuing to pay some rent to us, which is fantastic. The dana that gets dropped into bowls in the centre or from appeals after courses and the second-hand book sales mean we're losing £600. And we're probably at the moment down £600 on our normal course income, but it's very early days. And the more I reflect on that, the more we have to take into account. We had 6 weeks with nothing running at all, really, when the centre closed and before the online courses started up this month. And we're also going to be losing income from one-off fundraising events unless any of those take place. So losses, savings, some good new initiatives. Things are stable at the moment. But as the year goes on, if we don't open up and begin to run more things, or if we don't generate more income another way, then things are going to get tougher and tougher for the centre. But at the moment, we're stable. I think that's best I can say.
Right, thank you, Moshe. That's really useful basic summary. Of course, in the future, if people want to send in questions specifically later, then either to Moshe or me, we can answer further, more detailed questions about finances. But now's not the place for that. Okay, just so some few other things in that generalized question from Surika about financial situation. As you heard, no grants, sadly. We're still trying. We found a few more. I've just found another one that's just come up. We've been looking into and they are coming through slowly, new possibilities. So we keep looking for them all and checking them out. There was a question about the HLF bid and what happened. That's the Heritage Lottery Fund, because that came up in these questions. No, we haven't decided to reapply. In fact, the HLF bid, just to remind people, was designed to pay for the roof problem, not for general finances. So we need, it would require an enormous effort on the team's behalf, and we haven't got the resources to do it. But also, just to say, the thing that really killed it off in some ways, even though we didn't get through the first time, if we wanted to reapply, was that they wanted to turn the place into a heritage museum, and we are a Buddhist centre and we don't want to do that. So we finished with that. Okay, Surika, on to the next area. You need to unmute. Unmute, Surika.
Not had me full training yet. So just to, I know that, you know, there's not much more you want to say on finance at the moment, but I think from talking to you, I think there is some sort of reality that, you know, if things carry on, we will start to run at a loss at some point. Is that correct?
We'll be running at a loss of £4,000 a month from December onwards. And if Triodos don't increase the period of time in which we can reduce our mortgage, that will rise to £6,000 from April. There's just been a hint from the government they might give us another 3 months of that, but we'll see.
So I think that's a really helpful bit of information there, because I think it leads on to our next question, which is about the sort of strategy. So obviously, as trustees, you're aware of how things are now and potentially what the challenges might be looking ahead. You know, we might be running at a loss at a certain point. So we had a really good question, which is, you know, could you say something about, from the trustees' point of view, what are the sort of top 5 priorities looking ahead, and what would be like the worst and the best case scenario? What is on your mind as trustees of how to approach these sort of issues? What are you thinking of doing? What are your options?
Okay, well, this is the sort of question where you could have about the next 2 hours to answer, and I've got 7 minutes, so I don't know how I'm going to do that. But I just want to say, before even that, there's still the guiding principles, and I'm not going to go through them. Remember, we are a spiritual institution. We are not a business. Of course, we have to look at the pragmatic side. So we still have the guiding principles that trustees have looked at many times. And so perhaps at the very top of all the priorities is still the MBC develops and deepens both individual and collective going for refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And that we regard the MBC, the centre, as the altruistic dimension of our commitment for going to refuge. That remains at the top of the priorities, come what may, of all the other commitments. So, down to more practical aspects, perhaps. Well, you know, there's the long-running priorities and the current priorities, and I've put these in no particular order. So there's just the building and the roof problem, and they're still there, and there's still a priority. There's the growth of the Sangha. You know, the growth of Sangha, building depth and breadth of people coming, depth of practice. Both are very important, and as Maitra Bandhu points out, both run side by side, still a priority. We've got aspects like diversity. How can we reach out more to a wider range of people, of ethnicity and so on and so forth. But of course we got sustainable finances, and they're always there as well, because with all of these things we can't do this without a sustainable financial situation. So that's just some of the ones. Of course, in addition to that, they're the current ones, which are, you know, how are we going to open up? When are we going to open up? Even if we could open up immediately, would that serve the Sangha well at all? Or would that be very cool and cold type of situation with a lot of distancing, social distancing? Would that really be Sangha? So all those things are being discussed at the moment. Yeah.
Can I ask you something,
Oh, yes.
Silabodhi, there?
Please.
So yeah, I really like the fact that you're bringing in, not forgetting our sort of spiritual aims, you know, that right at the heart of it. But, you know, I'm going to bring in the practical bit. So I had a really good question, which was, like last year, we had a fundraising thing, which was sort of, you know, our centre might close because we're financially at risk. Yeah, and people responded to that. So obviously, you can easily put things together and think, well, actually, perhaps we're even more at risk now. So is it, you know, are you discussing in the trustees that, you know, is that a possibility? I mean, I think we just have to say, to name it, people have that on their minds. Is it the sort of thing you're talking about? Might we have to sell the building? Might we have to have a big rethink about things? Is that in the air?
Well, it would be disingenuous to say we never ever talk about these things. Of course we do. And we talked about them before the COVID crisis as well. You know, we have to look at the viability of the whole situation all the time. By the way, just to, you know, to correct that particular question where it said, the centre will close. Of course, we never said that. It said it could. And I do want to say that was successful. A lot of people responded, and thank you very much for that. I'd say we're 7,000 to 8,000 a year up from that existential ask, as I called it at the time. So that was brilliant. So yes, of course we have to look at the possibilities. We're a pretty unique centre. We're one of the few big city centres that is open most of the time. Most centres around the country are suburban or rural, and they're only open short hours for special events in the evening. We are open to the public all the time, and that is a very, very different prospect and an expensive prospect, but it has its rewards as well.
Okay, I think that's helpful, Silabodhi. Thank you. I think we could move on to the next question, actually, if you're all right, unless there's anything else you'd like to say.
Yeah, just to say that we're of course looking at every possible option to do with the building and how we can finance it and how we can keep it going. But what we would have to do if we weren't able to do that, of course, we do that a lot. Right. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, there's a nice follow-on question here, which is about decision making and consultation. So obviously you've got a lot on your plate, it's a lot to think about as trustees, and so there's a question really about who makes those big decisions about our vision and direction, and what sort of model is used. Is it a consensus model? And, you know, what's the thinking around where's the place for consultation with the wider Sangha? At what point might that kick in, or is that in people's minds that there might need to be some consultation if there's some really big decisions to make? Maybe you could say a little bit about that.
I think that's a very strong point, Suka. Obviously, it's for us to look at and listen to suggestions coming in if there are any, but it's for us to look at all the possible options. And then if we get to any major options, we've got to canvass the Sangha. We've got to. The Sangha, the whole, you know, the institution is the Sangha when all's said and done. So we have to canvass the Sangha. But it's our job to look at the possible options, of course. You say who makes the big decisions? Well, who at least looks at the big options, would be a better thing to say in many ways. On the pragmatic end, that is. Well, it's the trustees primarily. So you'll find out as we go along that we've got these various sections. We've got the elders' cooler, for example, that several people here belong to, mainly they're preceptors. And they're there at the background primarily to influence the spiritual aspect and give guidance and help to us with the team and the trustees. And of course, there's overlap there. But then there's the central part, which is the trustees. The trustees are legally the guardians of the centre and legally liable for it. So, you know, that's quite a serious role, actually. It's like being a director of a company. It's very serious and comes with very similar requirements, legal requirements. So the trustees are the main. So in a way, what I want to say to you is there is a similarity to a business model, and that is strategic, tactical, and organizational and operational, sorry. So if you like, the trustees with the elders sitting behind are the strategy, the strategic. The tactical is the Red Lotus Cooler, which is a grouping of people within the centre team who really look at how are we going to do this? When are we going to do this? What way would we put that on? How can we make that available to? Who should we talk to? How can we get out questions and ask people? How can we engage people? And then actually the last part is the operational, and that's a little group who, and that's primarily Vidya Pala, Sundeep and Chandana, but I'm in that group at the moment. They're the ones who say, okay, we're going to put this on at 2 o'clock on Saturday and we're going to send it out to such and such. So they write the finer details. So that's how it works. Yeah.
Great. Thanks very much. That's really helpful. Just one little thing I want to pop in there. I thought there's a really good question because the trustees are doing such a crucial work. We had a question which was, is it possible, we used to have like the minutes available downstairs in a file. So I've had someone say, well, look, you know, important things are happening. Can this process, what the trustees are thinking about, is there a way to make that available more readily, particularly at the moment?
Yeah, there's no problem. I mean, I'm glad somebody pointed that out because I don't think any of us had even thought of it, to be honest. Normally they sit in a file down in the reception and anyone can look at the trustees' minutes. Yeah. I've asked Vidya Pala if we can find a way to put them online.
That's
so
brilliant.
We'll gather up the ones since March.
That's great.
And make them available for you if you want them.
That's great. I think that'll really help. Thank you very much. So we've just got 2 questions left. So, you know, the area that I had most comments on was the whole thing about Zoom and online. So basically, lots of people saying, actually, I'm connecting more, I'm able to attend more, I've got health problems and suddenly my Sangha is more, I'm more able to connect. So basically, there's a real sort of desire for continued access via that platform. And I wonder if you could say a little bit about the thinking going into the future, even if we come out of lockdown, the future with Zoom, etc. I know Vidya Pala said a little bit actually at the beginning, he sort of answered this, but maybe you could just say a little bit more.
I think I'm quite inspired by this, and we've learned a lot from this period, which probably we wouldn't have done otherwise. And that is that we've got a big Sangha, there's 69 of them here, but they're hundreds really in the wider Sangha, and many of them just can't get to the centre. That could be because they're not so well, or disability, or just geographics, you know. And there are lots of people who would like to attend more things, more meditations, more possibly classes, talks, all of this. And I think we really got to look hard at hybrid models of, so I'm talking now into the future when we do have the centre up and running. Let's not worry about the moment. And when we do have the centre of the running, why can't we look into having a course with a really good quality camera where the teacher teaches the course just as they would normally, and maybe a supporter has a tablet with some people on Zoom and they can go into breakout groups, they can ask the questions to the teacher. All of these, I'm not saying we're going to do that, but we're really keen to look into that. We could have a much wider Sangha participation. And there may be ways to do that on other things as well, and especially meditations. Meditations very absolutely open for that type of thing. You can easily lead a meditation in the shrine room and have it on camera to people meditating elsewhere. And I know because I've been leading meditations online, and they go very well actually. It's very peaceful leading a meditation. So I think there's a lot of possibilities, and we're really looking into it. Sundeep, Vidya Pala and I really looking at other platforms as well, Facebook Live, streaming onto YouTube in concurrent with Zoom and so on. I think there's a lot of possibility around this actually to help a lot of people who otherwise were not included. Still doesn't mean that the central Sangha coming together, being with each other is what we want to get back to. That is the primary aim. Yeah.
Great, thanks. Great to hear that. I'm sure that'll reassure a lot of people out there. Thank you. So final question. So I know it's a changing picture, what's happening, but yeah, people are wanting to know what they can do to support the situation, to support the people who are still working, to support the centre, the Sangha. There's a real desire to participate in helping and supporting, and I wanted to hear a bit about that. Sort of, what sort of help and support, you know, do the situation need?
Okay, well, yeah, there's a mix of things now and a mix of things in the future. Some of them are more pragmatic, more general. So here's a quick pragmatic one. This is a real shout out. We need tech supporters. Anybody who's even faintly techie and has some time on their hands could help host Zoom sessions. At the moment, our busiest people like Sundeep and Vidyapali are regularly, and Chandana, who's allowed to do this in his furloughed state because it's not part of his job, are regularly doing work hosting complex Zoom meetings. And you do need a host when you're leading some of these things. So anybody who's prepared to help us with that, please do contact us. So that's one of the short terms. In the medium term and in the short term, we always want more order members to come forward and help with teaching. And it doesn't always need to be a whole 6-week course or anything. There are lots of opportunities for order members to come and help with teaching. So that's one. I think the Mitra conveners could do with support, especially in this time. I really do. You know, there's many things, contacting other Sangha members, supporting the Sangha. There are all sorts of things that they could do with more help with festivals, especially in the future. This is a good chance to go on about this thing. They're endlessly coming up with ideas for festivals, for gatherings and so on, and we need participation in that to help. That would be a really useful thing, and especially since the Mitra conveners are both furloughed as well at the moment. So, you know, if you have some ideas and you really want to help, please do talk with them. But I think my central point is participation in events. The centre's really trying hard to put on a lot of events with Ratnaguna's talks. We've got Tara Vandana's talks coming up. We've got some retreats and so on and so forth. We've got the main retreat, and Tara Vandana will mention that later, so I won't go into that. We've got meditations, and my own pet favorite is we're going to be launching the deepening meditation night starting on Mondays on the 1st of June. So that's really important. We've got a men's day on this Sunday between 10 and 1 o'clock. So I really want people to come to that. The more you participate, I know Sarika wants me to shut up now, but I have to finish this point. The more you participate, the more it supports the whole Sangha and brings us together and keeps us strong in a time when we could fall apart. And of course, that brings generosity and gratitude and brings in Dharma as well. So I'll get off my soapbox, Sarika.
Well done. Well done, that's great. And there's obviously several other events coming up that people are posting to me about, a women's event, and actually Tom Llewellyn was just mentioning that, you know, that initiative that he set up as the MBC Sangha's way of helping people stay connected. So, you know, there's some really good, there's been some really lovely initiatives, haven't they, by people, which is great. So yeah, thanks very much, Silabodhi. And I think if people, you know, particularly the technical support, I guess they email info@Manchester Buddhist Centre. Is that what they do?
Best to send it to Vidyapali at Manchester Buddhist Centre,
okay,
or
great. Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's great. So I think that's the end of our conversation. Thank you so much, Silabodhi. Really appreciated your openness and just sharing how it is. I think hopefully that's been really helpful for people to hear from you.